Well, how's it going today, man? You doing all right?
Yeah, yeah,
Good.
I'm
Well, we're excited
excited.
to chat with you today, and I figure if it's good with you, maybe give a little intro and a little background. You got such a cool history, man. If you wanted to give a little snapshot, and then we can jump in.
Yeah, yeah. So, hi, I'm Kalpesh Kapadia. I'm founder and CEO of Deserve. I came to United States about, call it 28 years ago, and came here to do my studies, a master's in engineering, and then did my MBA. Lived on the East Coast for first 5 years and moved to California in 1999. And ever since then, I've been here. Uh, I've seen many of my family members and friends come over the years to study and work. I mean, if you look at major software companies in the world now, the CEOs of four of them, top four of them are, came here as a student from India: Microsoft, Google, Adobe, and IBM. So very high quality population. And when I sort of was looking at starting a company, I realized that many of us are disadvantaged by the US financial system due to regulations that came into being after 9/11, after 2008 global financial crisis. So it created sort of a perfect backdrop for me to look at the space. And I started the company and been running it since. So that's my brief background. I have a master's in industrial engineering and an MBA in finance.
You got a finance degree. You know a little
That
bit.
was a long time ago, but yeah.
That's great, man. So talk a little bit. Like I think I can see moving over here and having issues with things like obviously the banking side, money transfers, all the basics, but credit, right, is one I've heard you talk a fair amount before.
Yeah, I think the issue really isn't bad credit; it's no
No
credit.
credit. Right. Is that where you kind of saw the problem being?
Yeah, so when you look at the very core of it, there are two numbers that matter in the US. One is Social Security number, and the other is FICO score when it comes to financial system.
Yep.
And when we first arrived from India or any other country, you do not have these two numbers, if you will, for foreseeable future, and you are invisible to the system to a large extent. Um, Even though you come from sort of a highly educated background, you're pursuing further studies here, so you're highly motivated to do well in your career. All those markers are not being considered. And we thought that there is no regulation that says you cannot issue credit without social security number or FICO score. So we developed a way for us to do KYC CIP using national passports and visas to the United States, and your stay in this country, address verification, and such digitally, all of that digitally, and then using bank account information through Plaid to do cash flow underwriting. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how we underwrote the no file population, and that can be extended to recent immigrants, college students, all of them. And then over time, we built more and more of the infrastructure from origination to underwriting to card management to processing to dispute chargeback, the entire value chain of credit card over time we built. And now we allow our partners to leverage the infrastructure and the platform we built. But the origin of that was underwriting and origination. And then we went peeled the onion back and went further and further down in the layer.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. I've got buddies of mine that their kids trying to go through school and things like that and come out and they have no credit and there's nothing there. It's a weird system that we put into place that really disadvantages people not from this country originally, and also young people in our that are from here. That unless their parents have done some really cool things, set them on a credit card along with this side with them and things like that. It's a start at ground zero position of somebody that probably has no reason whatsoever to have a negative or any kind of connotation against them. in the banking system.
Well, just because of the very strict two-part rules that we follow, right?
That's it, man.
That's a good point. Yeah. So talk a little
Yeah,
bit about what all you guys did. Obviously, I know there was a lot of steps, and I think you got such a cool, you've seen all the parts and pieces of sort of the banking ecosystem, the fintech ecosystem, the sponsors, the credit, all of it, right? But talk a little bit about what you guys did with Deserve.
Yeah, so as I said, we started direct to consumer. Our original premise was we went to large banks and we told them, look, we can bring this highly lucrative population to you with high lifetime value at very low cost of acquisition. And if they stick with you, Mr. American Express or Bank of America, they'll be very high LTV customers. They all thought it was a no-brainer, but nobody wanted to be the first, right? They wanted you to prove it out. So our original business model was B2B, and we had to go about it by proving it out direct to consumer, which was quite successful. We were the best student credit card for a while in the market, and we had customers from hundreds of countries and thousands of colleges in this country, right? And people are still using the card every day. Just Black Friday spending was through the roof. So, in 2018, Sally Mae came to us and said, you know what, we like what you've built for recent graduates and college students and new to credit. We would like to invest in the company, and we would like to have you build the infrastructure for us to do end-to-end, front-end, mobile application, back-end processing, infrastructure, everything, program management. So we went, from being direct to consumer to B2B, and helping our partners leverage our infrastructure to launch and manage card programs. And that was launched in 2019. 2018 is when we struck a deal with them. So within 9 months or so, we launched 3 different credit cards for them. And they're the largest student lender in the country, right? And then in 2019, Goldman was launching a credit card with Apple. As you know, it's been in the news for the past couple of days. They also were watching us from far and saying, okay, these guys have built something that can be leveraged for segments of the market that Goldman would not be interested. They want millions of cards, billions of dollars in receivables, right? So the magic middle where, we could invest in Deserve, partner with Deserve, and, we can scale this thing, right? So they invested in us. And then shortly after that, couple of 3 months, COVID hit. So every bank, every fintech, everybody was wondering, is the country shut down for, call it 3-6 months, and nobody was doing anything, just people sitting at home. So, and a large banks had really sort of clamped down on credit availability and underwriting because of they wanted to see how the recession would, hit this consumer credit, right? So we said, you know what, we're not going to sit on our hands. We're going to go and build strategic partnerships in the meantime, while people are not launching new cards. So we spent a better part of a year to build a partnership with MasterCard and Visa, both, which led to them providing us with technology that was largely built for Apple, MasterCard. And we became like the Apple Card equivalent for the industry, where we can do digital origination, digital issuance, instant issuance, card provisioning to the wallet, end-to-end within 5 minutes or less, right? And both Visa and MasterCard love that proposition. And they both invested at the same time in the company.
Yep.
In 2020.
Real quick, digitally focused, obviously, right? And I've heard you talk a little bit about this before. That, I mean, is it your view, and I think I agree, I really do, that almost what's the point of plastic and physical, right? That the future is definitely digital, almost to the point of, do we even need plastic? And I think that's such a different view than what we see with a lot of community bankers who rely on plastic and are kind of thinking about digital. I'd love to hear you just touch on that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so it's like, DVD that Netflix used to ship you, right? In early 2000s.
Yep.
Now nobody talks about DD,
Right.
right? Everything is digitally streamed, and we have like multiples of digital streaming services now, right? So the way we look at it is during COVID, there's a tremendous shortage of EMV chips,
Right.
metal cards.
And
So you could launch a card program, but you couldn't get supply for cards.
Yep.
Yeah, like you said,
Because the
stock was a big
it was
issue.
a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, even the packaging, right? So we do believe that, within, call it 3 to 5 years, everything is going to move to your smartphone and digital wallet.
I agree.
And every other industry has moved there, right? Financial services industry is still, I thought the checks would go away, but people are still writing checks. I always wonder when I'm in a grocery store in a line and somebody pulls out a checkbook, it
Right.
just holds up the line, right?
Yep.
And during COVID, you had a lot of acceleration in digital payments where people didn't want to pull out their card and touch the terminal and enter the PIN code and stuff. So Apple Pay adoption and Google Pay adoption went up during that time. So the trends are definitely moving in that direction. And my daughter, she's 17, and she doesn't care about having a plastic.
Right.
Their way of banking is completely different than my parents' generation or my generation or our generation.
So let me say that real quick, if you guys don't mind, for the bankers out there. I hear this all the time, so how do the FinTech guys do it? How do the FinTech guys do it? This is how the FinTech guys do it. And so this is really what we're trying to bring to light today, is that he has an offering that's not new. It's something that's widely accepted everywhere. Lots of FinTechs use your product, and you can send this product straight through a bank now. A bank can access and deliver this product just like a FinTech. Am I right on that?
Fair point.
Absolutely. And I would say one thing, that if you are a community bank and who want to distribute your product digitally nationally, the way it worked was you walk into a bank branch and they look at your driver license and they look at your face and do face-to-face CIP, right? Or KYC. That is possible in the digital world, leveraging your smartphone and all of the data that resides, leveraging machine learning, artificial intelligence, to look at your picture that you upload and look at your selfie and match those two things and say, you are the person you say you are. Right. You are the person who says, I live in, at this zip code and at this address. We can verify it with 100% accuracy. So one of the reasons that people were really weary of digital, especially in the web, was that, your dog could be applying for the card. You don't know on the website who is applying for the card, right?
Right.
Now with phone, you can ascertain very much all of the identity and match it with physical identity, right? So that issue goes away. The concern that large, community banks and others had was around fraud. I think we can minimize or probably eliminate fraud with this approach, because digital is fast, digital is quick, and it can lead to fraud. That was a fear people had.
Sure.
Right. And I think we solved that. And we also allow banks to distribute product nationally beyond the 30-mile radius that they're operating in.
Well said. Well said. There's something that really grabbed me. You said earlier about starting out looking B2B, right? Going to sell through banks as channel partners, right? And then given the times and the necessity, going and focusing B2C to prove the model. I think we've seen a lot of that's gone on, right? And even if that wasn't the onset, we've seen a lot of folks that, various folks that just thought they would start out B2C, right? That have now realized, hey, we've proved a model. It's maybe not scalable and certainly not for the cost. Let's go partner with banks. And I think it's a wonderful thing, right? Because we've got things that are in market and that are proved, right? Like Kalpesh, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that we want to empower community banks and credit unions to compete with large banks by reducing the time to market, complexity, Also minimum efficient scale to compete, where you don't have to spend millions and millions of dollars in technology infrastructure and operating infrastructure. So total cost to serve is lower with this approach. And you can make your product profitable and ROA positive and ROE positive with a lower investment upfront and lower ongoing investment.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on just credit in general, right? If you looked at credit cards, certainly in the community and somewhat regional bank space, it's few and far between, right? And we all see all the reasons behind that. But you see how many in the fintech space have come up with credit card offerings and filled various niches and holes and gaps, right? That definitely are bleeding in amongst those customer segments. Do you see that as big opportunity land? I mean, certainly, right?
Yeah, the fintech world, debit was an easy thing,
Right.
but credit was a little bit tougher. And then, people like Deserve come along and make this a little bit easier for everybody to play. And then you have to sit down as a community bank and go, now, wait a second, what am I spending? What am I going through? Or do I even offer credit? Right.
Right. Probably not.
And back to his point, this is not something that has to be within a 30-mile radius. This is not a geography issue any longer. You can offer a card and you can have this, there's nothing. I guarantee you there's people in Texas that have a Capital One card.
Well, and a lot easier than it was probably when you looked at this 5 or 10 years ago.
Well, that's the deal, is the cost to set up a credit card program at a community bank has been prohibitive. It's just not something anybody wants to do.
Well said.
And so debit was really the only place they wanted to play. Now there's a lot of community banks that offer a credit card, and on the books, it's a loan, so it sits on the books as a credit card, as a loan, and the yield on that loan is fantastic. And anybody in the credit card business will tell you you're going to have a higher default rate, but you got such a higher yield on this thing, it's ridiculously profitable to have a credit card program. Setting up that program was so cost prohibitive, it locked a lot of people out. So this is a fantastic way to open the door, get in there, if you're wanting to do a credit card program. The other thing is, if you've got to his point about, let's say we've got a legacy system in there, and I don't even like that word. Let's just say we have somebody else in there that's a core that also offers a payment solution.
Sure.
And both of the big major cores out there do that. And to be able to say, okay, now this can be offered by a third party a lot cheaper, and have this to where it's not completely linked to that. That also gives you leveraging power when it's time to renew your core renewal and all the other things. Disconnecting these pieces is a positive for the banker.
Good call.
Absolutely. And I think that people get very, very scared with high upfront investment, high ongoing cost of operation, right? And if you can show them the math, their eyes light up. Like, wow, this is so easy. I can make a few $100,000 investment up front, and I can generate high ROE product and distribute it nationally and earn high yields, like you said, right? You have interchange, you have interest, you have probably fees. And if you add all that up, this is probably the most lucrative banking product.
Yeah, I think a lot of people look at credit wrong, and it just fundamentally it's a negative, right? It's like, well, it's like preying on poor people, and it's like I've got a credit card. I don't use a debit card nearly as much as I use my credit card, and the fees. There's a lot of things that people overlook, in the convenience factor of just running through your life with a credit card.
Well, and the types of fees. An overdraft fee would really upset me, because it's obviously, if I'm overdrafting, it's not because I didn't have enough money there, right? However, you could charge me a nasty fee annually or monthly, and it wouldn't bother me a bit, right? And so the type of fee, I think, is really important.
Yep.
Yeah, and I used to say this, that debit is for dummies.
Well said.
And when you look at cash versus debit versus credit offers protection against fraud, zero liability. When you book a ticket, my mom booked a ticket from an airline in India to go to Dubai, and during COVID, the airline went bankrupt. And good luck if you had booked the ticket with your debit card to getting the refund. you book it with a credit card, you can just call the card company and say, hey, I dispute this transaction, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well said.
Yep.
Other virtue of credit is when you use it, you build credit history. With debit card, you don't build credit history.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Very good point. Absolutely.
And you also have the advantage of float. You know, you use the card and you pay it off after 30 to 50 days. And people who are financially smart and savvy, they can use the float very wisely.
Right. It's a really good call. And the interchange, I mean, I already mentioned that, but I mean, much
Yeah.
better interchange.
Whether it's industry driven or whether it's imagination, you know, the negative connotation of credit card versus a debit card is kind of stupid.
Well, I think
I
it's shifted
love
too.
your point with debits for dummies, man. I'm never going to get over that.
Good,
That
yeah.
was so good.
Yeah.
I've always said that to so many people that I think it's the dumbest product that we've ever created.
Yeah, it
is
is.
a debit, you know.
Yeah.
But the credit idea is something I just want to pound the table. If you want to sit down as a banker and go, yeah, I don't know how those FinTech guys do it. This is exactly how the FinTech guys do it. This is the product that they use. And it's not hypothetical here. And it's being brought to you. If you don't have a credit program and you want to have one, take a look.
There you go.
That's it.
Yeah, and you know, we just did it for a couple of banks where they were on the agent banking model and they were generating, you know, $5,000 a year in income to having a path to generating $500,000 in income in year 2.
Yeah.
Yep.
From the same product.
Mm-hmm.
So why would you not do that?
That's it.
Yeah.
And you would control the customer. You know, you would have the direct relationship with the customer.
Yeah, I
which
mean,
is very important.
Complexity. Run through any kind of card program, but certainly through a credit program, run through an invoice and look at oh my gosh, right? You have to be a forensic accountant to try and work your way through this as a banker, right? I mean, all of the fees and all the parts and pieces and everything goes into it. It's really complicated. If you could even get to the ROI model to figure out what you're doing. I mean, getting to your point, hats off to the banker that figured out that he was only making 5,000. I mean, that was a hell of a math project to solve.
I
right?
know.
I mean, that's hard.
Just to figure out if I'm
just to
making
figure it out.
Right.
Yeah. It's been traditionally very difficult. They're intentionally complicated.
Yeah, the rub in the room, guys, is KYC and the PCI part of this. If that can be solved and done in an effective way, you got no problem.
You bet.
Yep. I mean, the whole math works if you can originate good customers and leave the bad customers out, and you can delight them with user experience and, you know, create a top of wallet experience. So a lot of virtues of using mobile as an interface in the front end, using modern backend that we have, which is in AWS cloud, versus the COBOL mainframe interface. So you can make changes quite quickly.
Right.
And even networks these days, MasterCard and Visa, are encouraging more and more issuers to connect through the cloud. Mm-hmm. And we don't have to sell the virtues of cloud. I mean, everybody's on the cloud now, right? So there are certain things that are now facts that cloud is better than on-prem infrastructure from the cost and scalability and security standpoint. Mobile is better than the plastic at the front end, because you have a supercomputer in your hand versus a piece of plastic that you can lose somewhere, right? And then someone can swipe it. So all these things are becoming factual statements now that you don't have to sell to everyone. They're pretty much taken as a gospel now.
Yeah, having choices is huge, guys. And I'm gonna self-proclaimed old guy, and I kind of forced myself this first time I started trying to use tap to pay. I'm gonna pull my card out and I'm gonna use tap to pay. I'm not gonna put it in the damn thing, right? Until I learn how to do this. And then it took me about an hour to figure out how to do it on my phone.
You got it.
And it's like, I'm never pulling that damn card out again.
Or taking your wallet anywhere. Right?
There's no point.
Right.
And so some of this is not that hard. It's just make yourself do it. And the young people, they never learned the wrong way.
Well said. Very well
said. And I think that, I have been through airport security without my wallet. I don't know if you have forgotten your wallet at home and, had to go through airport security. I had my driver license on my phone, a picture of it, right, in a secure wallet. And I had some other identity document in my backpack and I got through it. But imagine the world where Apple is now allowed 8 states driver license to be digital, right? And you have your cards on your Apple Wallet. Do you need to carry another wallet? Like
We're
keys,
so
people
close.
used to carry a stack of keys. I just checked into Vegas at Money 2020, and they issued a digital key to my phone
Yep.
for
Right.
my room. How many times I had forgotten which floor I was staying at, and I started to sort of put my key into a different floor and different room number.
Yeah.
All that is gone away now.
I remember, 10 plus years ago, earliest days of the App Store and mobile, and when we're building out everything in mobile and mobile banking, and we sat and talked about these days, right? I think we all hoped that they would come sooner, but where is the moment in time in the day where your phone is just, it's everything, it's all that you need. You don't have to worry about keys or, even things like, headsets or wallets or any of it. You could just walk out the door in a bathing suit with nothing but your phone. And we're very, very close to that now,
Close to
right?
that.
It in a lot of people's cases, it may be here or months away, certainly a year or three. That's really cool to see. Really cool.
I mean, money is a product that should be digital always. I mean, it's, what is it? It's just entry into a ledger, moving from your account to my account.
Mhm.
It's
Or it could
digital.
go from your account to my account. That'd be
Exactly.
Yeah, you bet.
Like we've gone from horse and buggy and transporting money at Wells and Fargo and American Express to now instant transfer. Fed now, all the innovation that is happening regulatory wise overseas. If you look at India, has leapfrogged the entire sort of network infrastructure to UPI, which is universal payment interface. Brazil has done that with Pix. China has done that. Where you could pay a vendor just through your phone, bank account to bank account directly, instantaneously.
Big difference for sure. Hey, I want to give you a chance. Final thoughts, anything that's on your mind. Tell us about the future. Tell us your favorite sports team, anything you want to talk about, but take a few minutes and give us final thoughts.
Yeah, I see the world where you talked about, leaving your home with just your phone, right? And that is becoming closer and closer to reality. And to design the entire infrastructure from front end to back end that is leveraging your phone and optimized for your phone is the way to go. Because people are on their phone. They are not pulling out their checkbook. They're not pulling out their cards. They're not, walking into a bank branch. They're doing everything digitally. And it also allows you to serve customers at a fraction of the total cost of service, reduces the cost of service, reduces the fraud, increases the throughput, increases the enhances the customer experience. So that's we are all about, and we want to democratize launch of financial product, especially credit product, whether it's a card, whether it's a buy now pay later, single ledger, hierarchical ledger, where I can issue cards, to family members. I can issue a card towards a merchant, towards a category. I have controls in my hand. All of those things that you can imagine are, the way to, Apple has shown the way as much as people talk about the Apple Card, but, that's the future of the banking business. And, we are driving that, and we are helping smaller players to compete with big boys, with the infrastructure we bring to bear.
I love it.
So that's the pitch.
I think it's absolutely outstanding.
At the end of the day, guys, you can still take your big customers duck hunting. You can still take your customers to the ball game, go golf with them. You can do all of the things that you do today, but having the convenience of having all your transactionals right here, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Get your ass in gear and get it done.
Get ahead of it, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's it. You're going to do it.
Yep.
Awesome.
And my favorite sports.
If you're going to do it,
sports.
let me say that you're going to do it because of people like you.
That's right.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
And my favorite sports team is 49ers and then Cowboys.
All right.
So-
I'll take the
You
Cowboys.
said the Cowboys.
All
okay.
right, man. Awesome. Hey, really appreciate it.
Dak is doing very well this year. So.
Yeah, he
Yes,
is.
yes, you
Yeah.
bet. Hey, we super duper appreciate you coming to see us. Also, just
Thank you,
track
guys.
your progress over years and years. And it's so cool to see behind the scenes and how throughout you've got community banks in mind. So thank you for that.
Thanks, guys.
We'll see you next time, buddy.